When it comes to compiling code, especially projects with a lot of files, we can define makefiles to record the commands needed to compile code. So let's look at an example. We've probably seen very often this command, clang ++-7, which is a compiler and some arguments, some flags on how it should compile. In this case, it's to do threaded against C++ version 17. And for it to generate output called main, an executable code called main, and to read in the source file main.cpp. And once that's done, we can run .main and get the program running. So we can capture this within a makefile, which can be as simple or as complex as we'd like it to be. And I have an example already of a makefile that tries to capture this command. Basically, there's a few things happening. Just to make it simple, the first thing we can define is the type of the compiler, which compiler we're going to be used, and assign it to this variable cxx. We can use the compiler we're used to. You can use other compilers. There's multiple versions. The next thing we can do is define the flags. So in our case, in this case here, it's -pthread -std equals C++17. We can use that. There's other flags to do with printing out more information to screen. The next thing we can do is to define as a variable the name of the executable. In our case, it's main. The next thing we can define is when we call the makefile, how we're going to execute. So this all is going to be called when in the shell we call the makefile. So to call the makefile, we can type make all, and when we do that, it knows by default to look for this makefile, to look for a file with the name makefile, and it will assign all the variables, cxx flags, executable, and then it will only run the code that's specified by all : so it'll say, okay, I'm going to create this target executable. The way I'm going to create this executable is from the source file main.cpp, and I'm going to run this compile command, which is the same command we've always been running. So it'll substitute these arguments for clang ++-7, then the flags pthread and std, and then the output name of the executable main, and it'll read in the main.cpp source file. So ultimately, it's going to run this command, which is exact same command that we've always been running here. If we try to run this, it'll say nothing to be done for all. So the reason it does that is because an executable main already exists, and it's not going to overwrite it. So in order to overwrite it, what we'll need is a clean command. So clean : which uses the argument remove that exists in our bash terminal to remove the executable. So if I do make clean here in the command line, it runs remove -f main, so it removes it. We don't have main anymore in our file system. And now I can do make all. So if I do make all, it calls the compile command and makes our file. So our executable main is created, and to check that it's working as we expect, we can run it ./main, and it prints out hello world, which is the same program that we have here, our hello world program. So that, in a nutshell, defines how we can create a makefile. So this is a very convenient way of defining all the commands we want to execute at the command line without actually memorizing it, right? It's not really good practice to memorize what commands you want to run. It's better practice to store it in a file like a makefile, which you can call and run things and recompile your code, especially if you have a lot of files and some of the files change. You can just rerun your makefile to compile things again.